Welcome to Nerds Geeks in the Kitchen Sink. It's the podcast that's like hanging out at the video store, except today, once again, we are hanging out at the comic shop. I'm here with my other host, Chris. Am- You going to say anything?
Well, and usually you yell at me when I interrupt. So
I'm just, what's happening
I
with
just
this? We've done it the
I
same for so long, and now
I
all of a
had to have
sudden,
you thrown off a little bit. So that uncomfortable,
improve if you
Ricky
feel like it, right?
Ricky Bobby, you don't know what to do with your hands thing. So yeah,
Okay. All right.
I gotta keep you on your toes. I'm
All
Chris,
right.
your other host, and
We have Ray.
no improve if you feel like it.
I already said
Holy
it.
hell!
I
What the
snuck it in
hell?
there.
Yeah.
I thought
Oh
we were
my
past
god!
it. We've
It's
done this before.
Ray. This is
Uh,
like this every time. Every
That's
time.
okay. You guys are very comfortable with each other. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah.
I hope.
A little too comfortable at times.
So we have Ray here. Um, Ray, you have written a comic book, The
I
Madcaps,
have.
right?
Yes.
Yes, correct.
Let's.
Madcaps is
Oh, go
a
ahead.
three issue miniseries. The whole thing takes place over one night. It revolves around how you act when you're around close friends, and it's an homage to finally get to seeing those friends that you don't get to see too often as you get older.
That I really, really, really identify with this,
Yeah,
Yep,
legitimately. So
absolutely.
yeah,
darn right.
yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that before we go too much further. Just I want people to just right away be able to pull you up. Where can they find
Mhm.
this? How can they get it?
Okay, so the first, if anything, the most important thing that you could find is the pre-launch I have for issue number two. Issue one and two will be available in this Kickstarter. If you look up the Madcaps issue two on Kickstarter, it launches April 1st,
Okay.
depending when this episode of this podcast released. It might already be available for you to kick into. You can find me. You can find the Madcaps Facebook page on just the Madcaps. It's a page, not a group. A lot of people get mixed up with those.
Right.
You can find me on Facebook as DM Ray. DM is just short for Dungeon Master. I play a lot of D&D.
Very nice.
And then, of course, there is Instagram and what I like to call Twixter. You can find me as Raymond the DM. DM Ray was unfortunately taken, but you can
Oh,
find me as Raymond the DM on there.
Awesome. Awesome. People should check these things out. I'll try
yep.
to have as many links as possible in the show description, so you should be able to just
Right
take a
on.
look at
Yep.
that.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's a well, we'll talk about it more. I want to do a little
Yeah.
tease, so maybe we'll leave that alone and then we'll come back to the Madcaps.
Right.
But we certainly will be talking about it quite a bit.
Right
Um,
on.
First thing we always do, Chris, what are you reading, watching, playing,
Okay.
consuming?
Well, one, I've been playing the war robots.
Is that what it's called?
That I think that's what it's called. I can't remember,
It sounds like
but
a
yeah,
toy for a 9-year-old.
I know it does, but it's I think War Robots Frontier, but it is a new like 6v6 mech game that they launched. I'm actually, you know me, that I've said that I want a good mech game that they haven't really come out with. This one's not quite everything that I want, but it's pretty damn close. I mean, this is
Right on.
close to Mech Warrior, the role playing game as you can get
Cool.
because you can
Very
modify, you
cool.
have heat sinks, you have limited amount of armor and weaponry and yeah, so it's getting there. Let's put it that way. It's getting what I've been wanting. So, but
Right on.
when it
Cool.
comes to comics, I kind of did a thing.
Let's talk about it.
Okay, I'm just gonna show a couple, but I kind of went a little crazy at an estate auction, and I bought probably close to 200 different, including I don't know if you can see
Oh,
this.
we can see it.
Very cool.
Number
Right
Wonderful.
on.
23, Black Panther. I
Awesome.
have. I'm going through bagging and boarding, so some of these haven't. I've got the number 2 Silver Surfer.
I love that so much.
Oh, right on.
Norin
You know,
Rad.
and
All right.
it's kind of ironic that this was one of the issues in there with the whole controversy with The Silver Surfer in the Fantastic movie.
That's not even out yet.
That's not even out yet. Because the Shalabal and Zenal.
Uh-huh.
It's Nora Rad.
Nora. It is. I think they're saying it's a different character, right? That does exist in the comics, but like you would think it would be Silver Surfer.
Right, right.
It exists in 4 issues in the 90s.
Yes, exactly, exactly. In what was it? X, right? Isn't that one?
Earth X,
Earth
yes.
X, yeah.
Yes.
Another
intriguing story.
Yes, a very good story.
Ooh, what's that there?
187, Fantastic Four 187.
Who are they? Who are they fighting? Who is that?
That's Claw. That is
couldn't
what
really
Claw
tell,
is.
Ulysses Claw.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah. Oh, I know
That's
Claw very well.
One of his earlier appearances. And
Very
then
cool.
the first appearance of, and with the Marvel Rivals game, this is kind of fitting,
Oh shit.
Malice.
Yeah.
Fantastic Four Malice.
Oh, that's the Invisible Woman.
Yes. So
Yes,
first appearance
I
of
remember
Malice.
The first
Visible.
time I was brought into awareness of that character was through the ever so bad but tried to make better in season 2 of the Fantastic Four cartoon.
Mm.
That was the first time I was.
Yes.
I recently watched it all.
Oh, nice.
I
The
love.
part where Reed Richards just scolds her and she gives up being bad.
Right, I know.
I think my favorite thing that happened was like Ben Grimm and his girlfriend are like home alone in the Baxter building, and he's like, "Yay, everyone's gone. You know what that means? We get the TV to ourselves. Let's watch wrestling." Yeah.
Well, and then the last one that I was going to show that I got in the auction is
Origin.
Wolverine Origin.
Yeah.
This was the description of when Wolverine, quote unquote, became a mutant.
Wolverine Origins.
His origins, yeah. So
yes.
Plus about
the inside cover of that? Who's the colorist?
Let me look because I don't remember.
Is it by chance a Dan Kemp?
I see why you're asking that.
I know.
I'm pretty sure that's the same person, but we'll talk later about that.
Right.
I'm pretty sure Dan Kemp colored that one.
Chris forgot how to read.
No, it's just the way they've got it set up.
Sometimes those are hard things to find.
I know it. I know it.
Maybe on the page 1.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking. No.
Also, on the covers, is there a D with 3 dots? By chance?
No, not on this one.
I could Google.
I'm killing the momentum of this.
No.
Episode.
Yeah, no. Yeah, because this is the whole compilation, so it may not have. Because right now,
I understand.
Yeah, this isn't the single issue. This is because on
thing.
here it says Richard Isanov
and Andy Kubert.
Yeah.
That's all I'm seeing is for art.
Andy Kubert is the penciler, and Richard Isanov is the digital painting.
Gotcha.
So,
regardless,
right? Yeah.
Something that should be discussed later.
Yes, we will discuss that later.
Well, Chris, any other cool ones, or was that the last one you want to show us?
No, that was pretty much it. I've got a ton.
Those are the gems.
Well, no, they're
actually. Well, go ahead, Chris. You got
no. I've got a ton that I haven't finished going through. But
and Chris was very nice recently. Just dropped off some. He had some Ghost Riders in there that I guess he doesn't care about Ghost Rider, or maybe he knows that I like Ghost Rider a lot.
Which volume?
Well, there's quite a bit of different things in there.
Dan Ketch, Johnny Blaze,
a lot of the Ketch for sure.
Yes.
First year.
So, but the ones that are in there, and I haven't read them all yet. But just looking at the cover, the only one I actually read was Ghost Rider versus Deathlock, which is really fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, but as far as like the Ghost Rider that I like, I pretty much like all. I'm just a fan of that character quite a bit. So yeah, the Ketch. I mean, Midnight Suns is like my favorite run. It's not just Ghost Rider, but there's a lot of Blaze and his
Johnny
magical
Blaze
shotgun.
Flaming gun.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. The first year of that volume of Ghost Rider, the Dan Ketch run,
Yep.
the artist name is Harv Salteras. That's another artist we'll talk about later.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, I've got the first issue of that Catch Run, the one with the orange cover, the flame
Yes.
orange. Yes, I've got that one.
Eventually,
Yeah.
I want to own every single. I gotta catch them all.
Yeah,
So,
gotta catch them all.
catch.
Gotta Dan
Yep.
catch them all.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Do you know how you get Dan Ketch on his motorcycle?
How?
You Pokemon. I'm sorry.
Wow.
I'll be Canadian and apologize.
No, I
but
appreciate you
No,
staying
no,
with the
no.
script that we wrote. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you know why Dan Ketch gives the penance stare right into your eyes?
Why?
To get a peek at you. I apologize.
No.
That's it. I'll stop there.
No.
My
stop
silence
there.
is because I can't come up with a better one, and I won't try anymore.
I'll stop
wow.
there.
Wonderful.
Yes.
So
You fit right in with us.
Yeah.
Bad jokes and all. Yeah.
That was like a triple entendre.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
proud of that.
Delicious. Well, Chris, anything else? Anything you've watched or read?
No. I mean, we're gonna discuss Daredevil at the end, and no, that's about it, really.
The Red Evil.
The Red Evil.
Yeah. If you read it just right. Anyway, so all right. Well, I will go next, I guess. I have not been reading a whole lot. I did read I lied to you. I finished Batman Full Moon, which I just loved. It's one of my favorite Batman stories in a long time, but it does not have, I think I said this in the Discord. It doesn't have like a lot of the like standard Batman stuff. Like he's not punching any clowns or anything. But it's a really cool werewolf story that happens to be in the Batman world. I can highly recommend the art alone. Like there are some panels that I just want to have on the wall. It's just gorgeous.
Right on.
Yeah, it's excellent. I'm reading more DC than I have in a long time, actually recently. Also, I read Absolute Wonder Woman 5. That continues to be my favorite of the Absolutes. That's been really good.
Right on.
The Dark Horse comic Barstow. It's like a weird. You've heard of human trafficking. It's demon trafficking. In a sort of Lynchian, strange version of Barstow, the town.
Yeah. You let me read the first issue of that.
It's a very strange. I like it a lot, and it just gets weirder. So I've been enjoying that. That's Rebecca McKendry, who directed the movie Glorious, which I liked. Mm-hmm. The Lovecraftian glory hole film that we all love. That was excellent. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I picked up another couple of things, but didn't read them. I'm waiting on that last Wolverine Revenge.
Yeah.
That's all that I've really read recently.
What was it? The World War II Wolverine.
Oh yes. Well, I read that right after we recorded last time.
Right.
So it's
yes.
like,
Okay.
I feel like I already talked about it, but yeah. So my current favorite Marvel thing, apart from like I've been loving Wolverine Revenge, but there's this huge delay and it's taking forever to finish. Hell Riders, and I've talked about it on here a few times, but it's still pretty new. I think we just had issue 3. It is what if Wolverine, Ghost Rider, Bucky were in World War II together fighting sort of supernatural Nazis. And so far, I mean, it's really, really, really good. So there was
that's
a really
interesting. The visual to that, I immediately think of why can't I think of the story arc? It's a real good one from the late 80s, early 90s, where it's Wolverine, Black Widow, and Captain America. Do you know that one I'm talking about?
I have that one. It's a Jim Lee cover. Yes.
Yes, that's right. And when you described that there, Dustin, that immediately that Jim Lee cover came to mind, even though it's not exactly the same.
Sure.
Yeah, because it shows some throwbacks of when Wolverine and Steve were together in World War II in that issue.
And I don't want to give any spoilers for it, but it is World War II. Cap might be around. I don't want to say much, but
Cap exists.
Cap exists. But I think my favorite thing so far is, as a big Ghost Rider fan, there is a new writer in this story, and his backstory is so simplistically perfect. I mean, it's I love it. I don't want to give it away, but it is a great origin story for a new writer. Um, and the way he gets the motorcycle, it's fun. I mean, it's fun. It's very fan servicey, but I don't care. I've been serviced. I love it. Uh, I've also been reading. No, I'm not even going to talk about that yet. Sorry. I did watch some movies. I saw the Stacy Keach revenge movie. That was pretty cool. It's going to be once again on 5 Day Rentals. I'm just watching along with that podcast. Shout outs to them. I think I
Yeah,
shout them out on every episode, but just
pretty
like
close.
I love what they're doing. It has different names, but it's like a Stacy Keach made for TV, like big rig revenge movie. I think 5 Day Rentals is covering it this Wednesday, so look for that. I just had a blast. Like Keach doing a little bit of a like sort of a Charles Bronson style role where someone
Nice.
he loves is killed and he's trying to get revenge and the police can't
With a
help him
semi,
and
with a tractor
justice
trailer.
justice fails him, so he has to figure this out. Uh
You're
it's
off the force.
yeah.
I quit. You can't fire me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing. So yeah. Very cool. I don't have a whole lot else really. But Ray, how about you? Watching anything, reading anything? What's good?
Um, well, my day job when I'm not at work is watching my kids, so I'm limited in reading. But with that said, my oldest one, it's weird. I never thought I'd be this corny, proud dad moment, but here I am saying it. My son went through all of Fellowship of the Ring, the novel, in just over a week, and he's
Wow.
not even 9 yet. So I was just
Nice.
really proud that he could. Nowadays, there's a growing, I don't want to say epidemic, but I'll use the word anyways, even though it's out of context. There's an epidemic of kids being able to focus and do stuff.
Sure.
Right.
And for him to do that by choice and fit in pages wherever he could in between, like insert class here or on recess and stuff, but still
Hmm.
have friends in that was really, really awesome. I've been really enjoying Invincible. I've been watching that. Have you guys seen the end to it? The end of season 3?
I have not finished this season, this newest season yet.
Okay, there's only so much I can talk about then.
Okay.
All in all, I thought it was better than season 2. I was disappointed in season 2. Season 1 I loved. I've watched it 3
Yeah, it
times in a
was
row. Season 2 I felt fell short. Season 3 is almost as good as season 1 in my opinion. The whole
okay.
thing
It's good
together.
to know. That's good to know.
There's a lead up to a threat, and the thing I didn't like about season 2 was because the villain, unlike in season 1, the villain's there the whole time. And at the end of
Right.
season 2, bam, here's the villain. Well, you saw him a bit at the start, and that was it. There was no real involvement in the show.
Right.
And for season 3, they kind of fixed that a little bit. It's kind of like a half and half. The villain's present, not nearly as intimately present as having a father for
Right.
season 1, but very much. I was surprised. Why can't I think of the actor's name? Who played Negan in Walking Dead? Why can't I think of this guy's name?
Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Thank you. Yes, he voices a character. I was not
Right.
expecting that.
Yeah.
That was pretty darn awesome. Um, we're going to talk about Daredevil later, but all in all, uh, very much enjoying Invincible for sure.
Good. I was kind of
Awesome.
worried how season 3 was going to be after 2. I was kind of disappointed in season 2 compared to 1. So it's good to hear
Yes.
3 is. I'll have to go through that.
Yeah, three. It ends on a high note, and of course, because it's not intending to be finished, there are cliffhangers and loose
Right.
ends. But overall, I enjoyed it.
Cool.
Awesome. Awesome.
I'll go with
Anything
that.
else?
I think that's it for this week. I've been
All right.
pretty busy, but
Sure.
yeah, I think that's it for this week.
All right, cool.
Awesome.
Well, Chris, you already covered your comics, so that's
Right.
okay. Well, then why don't we get back to the Madcaps? I think that's
Yes.
really what we're here to talk about today. Um, I think people should know right away that it's like I think you called it medieval fantasy. Um,
Yes.
So before we get into super into it, I have to tell you that this last week, I don't know why I didn't say this, but maybe I was saving it for now. I watched Hawk the Slayer and I watched um what's what's the other one? What's the other movie I watched? It's another medieval fantasy movie.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. Hawk the Slayer is better anyway, but
Yeah.
what the hell is it called? Oh my God. And you're gonna
The
know it.
powers of Google.
Yeah.
This is worth stopping for sure. But it's important though because I'm gonna make. Let's see here. Woo. Really? Okay.
Sword and Sorcerers?
It's not Sword and Sorcerer. What's the one where the dude has his sword has like three swords and it can like shoot the swords out?
Oh, I know which one you're talking about.
What's the guy? The
I
Richard
cannot
Lynch?
think of. Yeah, I can't think of
Is
the
this
name.
anime?
It's not anime. No.
No.
Sounds anime.
Yeah, it does, but no.
Okay. Yeah. Top. Oh God. Uh,
Show where guy has three swords in one.
well, it's a movie. It's an 80s.
Yeah.
It's going to narrow it down to like
Yeah.
73 different anime shows.
Right.
Come on. I can't, guys, I've seen this movie before, like more than once.
I know what you're talking about because I can remember that because a couple of the blades can eject.
Did you already said Sword and the Sorcerer, didn't you?
That's what it was, right?
That's what it was. It was. It was Sword and the
I was
Sorcerer.
like, I was doubting myself when I'm like,
because I was trying to, but there's not really a sorcerer. I guess there is, but
I mean, yeah.
there's not a whole lot of sorcery. There's some
Right,
sorcery.
right.
It's
Anyway.
the catchy phrase. People be tagged in when
Right.
you hear sword and sorcerer.
Yeah.
It sounds
That's
like why
true.
they did it. No, I haven't seen that one.
Highly recommend both that and Hawk the Slayer.
Yes.
The point of me telling you about this badly is that I had some very goodwill from those movies and some vibes left over. And I read the Madcaps like directly in between. And I don't know if that helped or if the Madcaps is just that good.
Okay.
So, but
I won't argue. I mean,
no, just shut up. But I got those really like very much like Hawk the Slayer vibes where you get this ragtag team and it's this fantasy world and it's like, it's a new sort of world, so I don't really know what the rules are or like what kind of things can or will happen, and that really helps it to be fresh.
Yes.
And this kind of medieval fantasy, this is not like elves and orcs, and I mean maybe those things are there. I don't know, but like this feels a little less Lord of the Rings to me and more like 80s fantasy.
Yeah.
Specifically like 70s, 80s. That kind of fantasy where it's like it's really not it's not trying to be Lord of the Rings, it's trying to be like badass and fun.
One thing I tried really hard to do is if anything smelled similar to something that already exists, I would cut it out immediately. I tried very hard to in another podcast somebody asked if you compared your writing style to somebody, what would it be? And I said, well, that's kind of unfair. Let's say I chose like the Incredible Hulk's Peter David, and I wanted to be the best Peter David. Well, that means I'm always at best going to be second place.
Right.
So for this story, the same thing. If I was trying to do an homage to something that I really liked, the best I'm going to be of that version is second place. That's at best. So I just tried to just do a cool thing. A lot of it, this story is actually based off of the first homebrew D&D campaign I ever ran. The main difference is I took all of the characters that the players were playing as, I removed them, and I injected my own characters that ironically were based off of the players that were playing at the time.
That's fun. That's fun.
And because of that, you mentioned no orcs or elves. Yeah, those creatures do exist, but it's not like the hyper focus.
Right.
For example, the one character Chazgo with his blue skin, he's actually a variant of elf known as an Arger. Were you able to read the bios in the back?
I have them pulled up at this moment, and I was going to give you a compliment and tell you,
go ahead.
And tell you thank you for having those there, because as this is the first issue, and we're just, it just jumps straight in. You know,
Yeah.
I don't really have a
Yes.
lot of backstory and I'm trying to learn it. These
Yes.
character sheets, number one, super helpful for trying to read and like get into the story. But number two, when I was a kid and even now, these are the things that I would continuously go back to and refer to over and over and like stare at the art.
Yeah.
And I love that you
Mhm.
have these detailed drawings and the everything.
So
So
that
yeah,
that is Jay Sloan who drew the concept art in those bios. I loved his work so much that he actually did one of the covers for issue 2.
they're great. So I
Yeah.
look forward to seeing that.
And
Also,
another person on a different podcast said you put those bios at the back and it had to make me read it again. And I guilty as charged. It's almost
Hey.
like I did that on purpose.
yeah,
Maybe there was something I missed. I better read this again.
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
But
yeah.
Chazgo there, he's a blue-skinned elf. The reason he's blue, this happens in real life. If a human were to consume silver, it actually
Mhm.
tattoos their skin blue.
I've seen that
And
guy, that
Chazgo
video.
on Oprah, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
there's a
Yeah.
yeah.
bunch. Apparently, there's some cult in the States in the 70s where some of them were super blue for the same
I think you're
reason.
just
But
talking about the
anyways,
Smurfs. Sorry.
yeah, exactly. But Chazgo's people, they live in a mountain range that's riddled with silver deposits, and these individuals, they view magic as an abomination, and they feel they're so resistant to magic because of their devotion and worship to the mountain. In reality, it's just because they have all the silver flowing through their veins that they have resistance to magic and stuff. Um, Chazgo, long story short, does dabble in magic, and because of that, he left his mountain range, but his people are the kind of stuff that children make scary bedtime stories over. So he hides his appearance, which is a very risky thing. He's worked his way up. He's a representative of a noble in that town, Ivywood, and if he were ever exposed, he'd be killed on sight. And other than his 3 other friends there, nobody knows what he actually is.
The
He
secret
goes by a
identity
completely
aspect is
different name.
Right.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
And
other
I
guys are
think
doing
most
that, but
people,
yeah.
I think most people, I kind of did an inverted secret identity. Most people, the identity is I want to protect my loved ones. If Peter Parker saying to Mary Jane at the end of Sam Raimi's first Spider-Man movie, we can't, basically,
Right.
if you find out this just happened with Aunt May, I don't need this happening to me again, yada, yada, yada. Chazgo's kind of the opposite. I'm going to be killed. I'm forced to have a secret identity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people can relate to first impressions whenever you meet anybody. Everybody has their quirks and other, maybe you have a passion that's not very popular. That's not going to be your opening sentence when you meet somebody new. So you kind of reserve and hold back until you're comfortable enough. And Chazgo is kind of a reflection of that. So he's really his true self around his inside circle, but that's about as far as it goes.
It's definitely all this stuff comes through. I mean, like
Right.
you mentioned the blood thing, and it's like, yeah, I remember reading that. So I feel like we're going to get a lot more little details that are making these characters a lot more beyond just generic fantasy character.
Right.
And it's funny, you said earlier about jumping right into it. I wanted this story to feel like the world existed before issue 1 and the
Mhm.
world exists after the final issue in issue 3. And if you met a circle of friends that you knew nothing about, of course there's going to be certain things you don't fully understand or don't fully get. But at the same time, it should be interesting enough that you do want to know what's going on. That was something I really tried to attain amongst the interaction amongst all 4 of them.
It works. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can think of moments where that happened. Exactly. A character, refers to something that you're like, I wonder what that was about, and then,
Right.
but we don't, obviously we don't
I mean,
get
a
it.
lot of it, yeah, a lot of it seemed like genuine conversations that small circle of friends you have with that. There's a few of those kind of inside baseball quotes that comes off that not everybody will get, except for those couple of people. And I just one thing I want to talk about is the art. Is really I love the art because it gives me almost a little bit of those throwback like first like Ninja Turtles style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm really the Eastman and Laird early stuff, and I really like that. I liked a lot of because I collected a lot of independents like in the 80s and 90s, and I saw a lot of that artwork, and I'm glad to see it come back somewhat. That
Yeah. Well, there was the short version of that, to reflect on it. The reason it left, when Image Comics came on the scene,
Right.
They did this really awesome thing, but at the same time they kind of shot themselves. All of comic industry shot themselves in the foot, where the focus was, to a fault, heavily on the art and not so much the story. And it took about a decade for the industry to figure out we we need good story too, essentially. And
Some
not all
would say
comics
they're
in an
still
era.
figuring that out. Yes.
But it's funny you mention Eastman and Laird. My publisher, he talks to Kevin Eastman once in a while on his podcast. Shout out to Philip Russer to Philbo Publishing. The coloring you're mentioning on the art, the reason I was asking about Dan Kemp on X-Men Origins is he colored X-Men Origins. He colored my book. He's colored over 100 issues of Spawn from like 50 to 150.
Nice.
Wonderful.
And
we love Spawn here.
If you look up the early 2000s Marvel Knights, or that's late 90s, early 2000s, that Daredevil, that whole Daredevil series, the first one that Dan Kemp colored all of that one. If you look at that iconic cover, that was it was homaged in the ever so controversial 2003 Daredevil movie. Just before the credits, before the credits show, and Daredevil in that movie jumps off and he spins his baton and all of the cables fly around.
Right.
That imagery is an homage to Marvel Knights Daredevil #1, and Dan Kemp in turn, he colored that cover. Like if you look at all the covers, especially, you'll see beside the person who drew it, you'll see like a capital D with Predator style 3 dots in a triangle shape, and that's Dan insignia. So I have like really iconic Spawn issues in the 50s to 150s. Daredevil, Wolverine Origins, I have that same insignia on the cover of my book, and I'm beside myself that this talent, all the different individuals that bought into my project, like who am I? This is my first time making a comic.
Right.
And we were talking about Ghost Rider earlier. Harv Salterra's Ghost Rider Volume 2 with Dan Ketch was one of the first comics I was collecting back to back, grabbing back issues.
I love to hear that.
Yes,
I love that.
And Harv Salterra's, he did the first year of Dan Ketch as Ghost Rider. He moved on to, I think, Midnight Suns, and he's done a bunch of other stuff. Don't get me wrong, but Harv, I had him do a variant cover for me for issue 1. And I'll actually be, you can buy that art on a t-shirt for this second campaign. And again, this is, the person who colored that one as well is Dan Kemp. Like if you look up, just getting a notification here. Anyways, if you look up the Kickstarter launch for issue 1 of the Madcaps, you could see all the different cover variants. You'll see Sarlacc the dwarf carrying the axe. You can see a picture of him holding a beheaded monster's head, and that's the same guy who drew Ghost Rider. When you look at it, you could see the
similarities,
the artist fingerprints. You can see the style. But in turn, I had Dan Kemp color it. So I had somebody who colored a Hellspawn on top of the work of somebody who's drawn essentially a Marvel Hellspawn, and I had this cool collaboration. These are people that had a passive influence on my childhood, and to get them to bring to life something that was in my head is something I feel is very I've said this in other podcasts, it's the equivalent of having like Kurt Cobain or Elvis Presley perform a song that you wrote. I don't know how else to explain it. It's just amazing.
Absolutely.
But going back to the Madcaps, one thing I tried really hard with these characters is it's very boring if they're very powerful, if they're infallible, and I wanted to make sure that each one of them had something that a person could relate to. I mentioned Chazgo, making sure that he's reserved and protecting himself. The biggest fella, Madrakis, he's a what do you call it?
Lizard.
I can't English today. He is a descendant. I'm looking for the word descendant. He is a descendant of something that's known as the Great Stormworm. The Great Stormworm is this giant electric eel, kaiju-like, that lives in the ocean, essentially. And so because of that, he can store up lightning in his gizzard and vomit it out later. And he is a very hardy specimen. He's over 350 pounds. His height, clear 6.5 feet. He's very imposing. Unlike Chazgo, who hides his appearance, well, Madrakis doesn't have that option, so he actually just embraces it. He doesn't know much about his culture, but his armor that he wears, it's not the best of armor. It's brass, and it's a ceremonial, just to reflect his culture. He doesn't know too much about it. And his biggest, most intimidating thing is actually his brain. And he dabbles in the arcane. He would be kind of like a amateur mage, if you will. And because of his appearance, most people would mistake him for like a mercenary or something like that. I hate the trope when you have a big person that's part of a team. The only thing they're good for is basically meat shield and punchlines to stupid jokes because they're stupid. And Madrakis, I just kind of wanted to turn that on its head, which I think I did well. Although he wields a sword, he's not a skilled fighter, so he swings a blade well. But that doesn't, or he swings a blade hard, not well, I should say. The last two guys, there's the full-blooded dwarf, Sarlacc, and his people left mountain life and wanted to farm, but as stubborn dwarves go, they decided to terraform the middle of a swamp over time. Because this is fantasy, culturally, they learned how to track and pacify things that go bump in the night. So Sarlacc decided he felt a calling that he wanted to reflect his devotion to a being known as the Divine. So he moved into the city of Ivywood, and he wants to be helpful to those less fortunate. There are times he leaves the city to leave Ivywood to help out in the surrounding area. And he's almost like a ranger, if you will, or kind of between that and a cleric. His devotion has given him some specific blessings, which you're going to see more and more as this story plays out. Somebody asked about his personality, and I essentially just said he's like a long fuse to a large cannon. He's got a lot of patience, but not worth getting the guy angry.
Sure.
And then the last one, he's a half-dwarf, and his mom is a gnome. His name is Dunan Eni. He's referred to as like a social facilitator. He's not quite as tall as a dwarf, and he can't grow a beard. He has a hard time fitting in with either bloodline, but he does draw from their cultures in certain ways. He is just as inclined to establish a strong bond with a friend as he would a family member, and simply because he doesn't feel like he has very, very, very tight bonds with family. Somehow, he doesn't know why, he's discovered that he can influence metal and crystalline structures. One of the biggest ones being his this telescope that he has over his shoulder, which can blast raw arcana out of it. He's kind of rigged it to do that. It syncs with his goggles, and he controls it with his eyes. And there are other things that he could do. He figures that he gets this ability, he's inherited it through like a mudded combination of his parents' genes, because his mom has a similar influence over nature. He has a very similar ability, but on metal instead. So he figures it comes from that. It's not really confirmed. And this story begins with Dunan bringing Madrakis into Ivywood, and they're talking about a job, and he wants the other two. And before they can even discuss the job thoroughly and meet up and catch up with each other, this undead outbreak happens, which they're able to help stave off. 3 of them almost get killed. Chazgo can't really help in that moment because it would compromise his identity. And Sarlacc, who turned away some addicts of a fictional drug called Weave earlier in the story, he recognizes one of them after the outbreak is pacified. And they start going on a lead from there. So the question is this a coincidence, or is this drug have something to do with the undead? And issue number 2, they actually are able to find the home base of a distributor. So
all right, no
if
spoilers
you
now.
have,
Yeah.
No spoilers.
no spoilers yet. All I will say though is if you have individuals that are doing shady stuff with a lot of product, obviously they're going to need hired muscle as well, and that's all I'll say about that.
Nice. One thing I
Yes.
liked was you were not afraid to show a little of that action. You were not afraid to show
Right.
a little, severed heads and skulls getting split open and stuff. So like, I do appreciate that. Again, like that to me, that once again just goes right back to that sort of 80s fantasy where it's like,
Right.
it wasn't as sanitized as I maybe feel
Yeah.
like sometimes you see fantasy now and it's like, it doesn't
Right.
quite go there. But this is that it fully just embracing the fun and the brutality
Right.
and I like
Yes.
the as far as the art and the coloring. I mean, the bright colors. I'm so happy that there are colors again in comic
Yeah.
books.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
I would not want it any other way. So like I love seeing these bright greens and purples and blues and yellows.
Yes.
It's really great to see this. And I don't know if
I
that's
I
because oh, go ahead.
blame I blame 1998's Blade, and don't get me wrong, I love that movie, and I
Careful
don't
what you
want it
say,
to
friend.
change. Yeah, no, I love that movie. Huge disclaimer: there's nothing wrong with the movie, and I say it kind of in jest. It started with, and as soon as I name these movies, you're all going to know exactly what I'm talking about here. We'll start with 1998 Blade,
Hmm.
2000 X-Men,
I knew
Underworld,
exactly where you were going with it.
Heard
Underworld.
of
Yep.
it? Yep.
Yep.
We're talking The Matrix. And we're also talking, I mentioned 2003's Daredevil, lack of color. Just tactical dark leather and
Right.
sunglasses was the
Yeah.
thing.
Right.
And it was so successful, everybody just adapted to that,
Right.
including the core of the X-Men. They all had black uniforms at that
Right.
They
point,
even
and
made
so
fun
forth
of
and
the
so on.
outfits in the movie. Like they
Yeah.
even were like, "Oh, what do you want,
Yes, yellow
spandex?"
spandex.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
And then look how
And
people went nuts
um,
with the with the
Deadpool and Wolverine.
Deadpool and
Yeah.
Wolverine to see him in that yellow costume.
Yep.
yes, yeah, that was a big deal, and I think one of the best examples to break that mold, even though it's happening right in the middle, going back to Sam Raimi, even though Spider-Man, you can see the influence, they decided brighter colors. And I think that
Yeah.
really helped that movie stand out. So I love that movie. It's not perfect, of course, but I really liked it for its time when it came out. It was very bold. It decided to do something outside of the norm, not just the superhero aspect, but the aesthetics. Um,
Hmm.
I was impressed that it stuck to not being morally flexible. Like good was good and bad was bad, and Peter
Right.
learned a hard lesson by not
Yep.
doing the right thing, and that's why his uncle is dead.
It's vintage
Um,
Spider-Man, baby.
Yes.
yeah, and then the only time I felt that afterwards was the first Avenger movie. It was the same thing. We're doing the right thing will prevail eventually, and I know that's an oversimplification, but that style, because I feel individuals really do crave those stories, whether they realize it or not. So when it happens, it's like crossing the desert and getting a drop of water. You just receive all that water, right?
Right.
So when you see a story like that, not all stories need to be like that, but when finally one does come out, oh yeah, all right,
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
For
Because
sure.
First Avenger is one of my favorite, and and even if you look at like, it's kind of going back and forth with Marvel, but like even with Civil War, it's I'm going to do the right thing no matter what it costs me because it's the right
Yeah,
thing to do.
yeah,
Sure.
So and that's kind of one of the things I want to just you kind of maybe go a little more in on. I love the fact that when you wrote these characters, you kind of subverted the stereotypes, because you have
yes.
this big behemoth of a guy that's not just, you know, a wall smasher. You've got a
Mhm.
dwarf that's almost like oh Kwai Chang from Kung Fu, to a degree that, you know, so you've kind of subverted some of these just tropes and knowing now with your Dungeons and Dragons background, who of us doesn't play, you know, a ranger that loves city life? And it's kind of,
Yeah,
and it seems like that's what you kind of brought to this story.
I
And I
wanted
really
to bring
enjoyed that. Yeah.
yeah, I wanted to bring something at the end of the day, the reader decides whether I'm a good writer or not. The only thing I could control for quality is the art that I tagged onto this project, the talent. But for me, one thing I really wanted to make sure that was nailed down was I didn't want to be like, it's been done before, but there's a clock attached to it now, like toaster with clock analogy. Like
Right.
it's toaster, but it has a clock now. Get this toaster. I I really wanted to have something that people could identify with, but I didn't want to reflect something that pre-existed. Some people have, I think the closest critique in that vein would be some people say Chazgo looks too much like Nightcrawler, which was not the intention. But when you read out Chazgo, Chazgo is very, as you see in issue 1, he finds churches very pretentious. Well, that's definitely not Nightcrawler.
No, that's completely
Chazgo, he blasts this light out of his hands, and as you see in one of the covers for issue 2, there's one of the variant covers that Jay Sloan drew. There's this three-eyed albino crow resting on his shoulders while he's sitting there milling around in his thoughts, and that's actually Chazgo's pet. These are all, I mean, other than the similarities in visual, he is definitely not Nightcrawler, that's for sure. But putting that aside, the other ones, I don't even think there's anything even remotely close. One, I think on a couple of scenarios, some people look at Madrakis and say, hey, that's Beta Ray Bill, but that's obviously
I thought that too, yeah.
Right.
They're very,
I see the similarity in the armor and stuff, but I don't think that, like, it doesn't feel like a knockoff or anything.
Right. I try really hard to give something fresh and unique, so when a person reads it, they are, as you were saying earlier, Dustin, not in these words, but it's intellectually stimulating. You don't have to have 60 years worth of lore memorized to understand the full context.
Yep.
And when it's done, it's a complete package and it's finished. I already have some of the covers done for issue 3. I'm getting really excited to get this up and running. But by the time this is all said and done, when you read the final issue, each issue is like an act. You will actually feel like I felt like I read a story. I didn't feel like I had a bunch of art thrown at me with some shoddy story or some excuses to show this, or I tried to have it so when it's finished, when the person reads it, you know what, I enjoyed it. I felt like there was an appropriate ending to the story. That was my whole goal.
Excellent. I love it, and this is just nothing to do with it, but as I was reading it, I was like, this would make such a good like indie game, like brawler meets RPG, sort of beat 'em up, but I can level up with these cool characters, like Streets of Rage meets like Final Fantasy or something. I don't know, but like I want to play as these characters. I think what I'm trying to say is I want to explore these characters more.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to more issues, but also it would just be real cool to see them get to do things, more. So I hope that something like that could happen in the future. But in regards
to games, I'll just say I'm not allowed to say anything else about that. But we can talk about that another time, hopefully.
Sure.
And
absolutely.
There are new things you'll see in the second issue. As you were talking about in the first issue, I didn't want to show everything, so you will see more play out in the second issue. More development. The Chazgo's pet, for example, but there's other really cool stuff in the works.
It's excellent. We really like it.
Yes, definitely.
I appreciate getting the chance to read it and talk to you about it because it's excellent, and I do hope people will check this out. But yeah, we talk to a lot of comics people, but this one, I mean, look, I love all the things we get to read and talk about because of this show. This one for sure stands out. I really enjoyed. So absolutely
appreciate it.
And we know the Kickstarter for issue 2 is coming out in April 1st.
This episode will be out probably today, so you have time.
Yes,
right on time.
So those people that want to get episode or issue 1 beforehand, where else can they? Is there anywhere else that they can pick up issue 1 before the new Kickstarter?
As of right now, you'll be able to get issue 1 on this second Kickstarter with issue 2. There's a catch-up tier. There's a couple of really cool add-ons and tiers. Some of them I can actually talk about. You can purchase a map which shows where this whole story takes place. It
Oh,
shows some
nice.
surrounding cities. That was a free stretch goal last time. We're going to put it up front as an add-on so you can buy it right away. We're actually another cool add-on is plush blankets, but we're calling them plush tapestries because they'll look really cool hanging on the wall. We're choosing just the ones that look like paintings.
Right.
So there's a really good one of Madrakis that was painted by John Zalesnik. This is the man who painted the cover art of the original Shinobi for NES.
Oh my
Nice.
That was a
God!
great.
I
kid you not.
up!
I
I've got to
kid you
go.
not.
I have to go.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
You will be able to buy that as a blanket and hang it on your wall.
Nice.
John Zalesnik, he's also the guy that created. He's drawn a lot of like Warhammer 40K, Magic the
sure.
Gathering, or painted rather, but he also did the original logo to the San Jose Sharks for the NHL. I didn't
Oh,
know that.
nice.
Wow.
Just
Nice.
recently offered to the public who wants to buy the original drawing of that logo.
Holy hell.
Other add-ons, there's t-shirts and some that look more comic. Some of them are variants of issue 1. Some of them are variants of issue 2. There's so much cool stuff on there. There's also this I can talk about. For anybody that likes playing Dungeons and Dragons, you can buy all 4 character sheets. They reflect level 5 characters.
Oh, wow.
So you can actually purchase and look through their stuff and be like, wow, I can actually be this guy. I think that's all the add-ons, but to go back to the original question, issue 1, you'll be able to get on there as well. It'll just be the main cover.
Okay.
And you will be able to, some of the variant cover art will be on the plush tapestries or the t-shirts. And I think that's all the things I'm allowed to say at this moment about it. It's actually torture when you know a bunch of stuff, you think it's awesome, and you can't share it. Oh man,
right.
It's
We
killer.
get it. Absolutely. Well, cool.
Very cool.
Is there a link for that will be available?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Make sure we get that.
We've got a
please.
pre-launch.
Yep.
Just look up Madcaps #2.
Okay.
And it'll be a picture of Madrakis, and it's one of the variant covers to issue #2. So it's actually pretty.
I saw
pretty
that
awesome.
earlier
I think
today.
all the
Yep.
Yes, I think all the variant covers I sent to you guys and the main cover for issue 2. I think I sent that in the chat originally.
Yeah,
but
you sent that to me. Yeah.
You'll see a better view of that image that you'll see on the pre-launch. But yeah, issue #2. If you followed me on nothing else but that, you would be definitely helping. It sways the algorithm in my favor.
Sure.
For getting this project noticed. Nowadays, I'm not against Marvel. I'm not against DC. But nowadays, people are kind of a little tired in certain respects. And I have this issue. It's completely on my dollar. I'm not spending. I'm not trying to make monthly quota with filler issues. And I know sometimes with bigger companies that they might be stuck in that scenario to get to a certain timing to release a story. I'm releasing this because I want to. Every page, the panels are there because I want them to be there. I'm not trying to justify something. I'm trying to just tell this cool story. And I know by the end of it that if you even just click on follow me on notification on the pre-launch, you'll be helping getting a story delivered by a person that just wants to tell something cool. I'm not trying to preach views. I'm nothing like that. I just guarantee you when you read it, it's a good time. And when it's done, you can be like, I'm glad I read it.
You are preaching to the choir when it comes to that with us. Because believe me, we've railed plenty on the major couple of companies on, the filler and the bad storylines just to get to a point.
Don't even, Chris.
I know.
It will never end.
I know it won't. but I want to. Can I make one suggestion, maybe for issue 3, that somebody do
absolutely
a stained glass looking cover,
stained glass
with the main characters on there. Just suggestion.
You've seen the variant cover I have for this one, right? The stained glass one?
No, I haven't. I missed that one.
Oh, well,
okay.
Okay, so this is actually good hype up. One of the covers is it's It's drawn by Jenna Stark, and it's colored by Dave Kemp. That's Dan's brother.
Okay.
It's stained glass of something that happens in the comic. So the imagery is Sarlacc holding what looks like a book, and he's reading it, but it's all portrayed on a stained glass window. But it's going to be limited edition.
That one.
There it is there.
Okay.
So that one there.
Okay, yes, I saw that. I don't know why I said I didn't. Yes, I saw that.
All good.
Because you're a liar.
That image there, that's going to be a metal foil cover to exaggerate the stained glass effect.
That's cool as hell.
Nice.
So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yes, I will be purchasing that one. So
right on, man. Right on. So, there's a lot of cool stuff. As I said, I've already been in works with talent to get issue 3 up and running, and variables like what you just mentioned are all on the table. There's a lot to consider. I'm really excited to jump into it.
It's just saying a tapestry with everyone like that in that kind of style would be a really cool addition. I know you would be taking my money. Yeah.
I think it's a great idea.
Hell yeah. All right. Is there anything final you want to cover with Madcaps before we move on to the Daredevil discussion?
So for Madcaps, I think I've covered everything that needs to be said. So April 1st launches on April Fools. Somebody said as a joke that the trailer on the Kickstarter for April Fools should just be a Rickroll, but it's not going to be that.
That's not a good idea. It's not a good idea.
The trailer comes out soon. That'll probably be within a week. Page 1, I teased last week. This week I'm going to be teasing it fully colored by Dan Kemp. And it's going to be fire. I'm really excited for that. We got 2 weeks to go. There's everything that needs to be said has been said.
Excellent.
And we'll have all the links to everything.
As many links as I can get.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So yeah, let's get into Daredevil Born Again. I mean, I assume most people watching or listening would be aware of what it is, and I think we'll be doing spoilers up through maybe episode 2, just to keep it okay for Ray. And there's not a lot to say about episode 3 anyway. Okay, anyway, forget that. Let's talk about it. I had some initial feelings that I have to get out of the way, and that I watched the first episode. And honestly, guys, I was not into it. I was mad at it. I didn't like the obvious CG. I liked that they were trying to capture some of those Daredevil panels with some of those moves and flips, and he has his batons and he's on the rooftops and stuff. But to me, it looked like ass compared to what we're used to for that show.
Right.
And I was really disappointed, to be honest with you. I was like, why is it this? Like, I should have known that this would happen. Now, I waited a week before watching episode 2 because I was like, I have to deal with this mentally because I love the first 3 seasons very much. So, episode 2 much better. I thought episode 2 was a big improvement and back to what it should be. I'm really hoping there is not a lot of this CG obvious fake.
Right.
When you just have guys, I don't have to go crazy on this, but like the beauty of the first season is it's emotional, it's got good acting, and the action is incredible. I don't want this fake spectacle of the CG fights and none of it looks like it's real. And it's the thing that makes Daredevil good is that it feels real or within reason real. It feels reasonably real. So for me, I was really let down by that first episode for sure. How did you guys feel?
I was close to the same. I mean, once they got out of that first kind of 15 minutes, I think it got a little bit better. Personally, it's like you had such action in the first 3 seasons. You could have done practical on a lot of that stuff that they did CGI.
Yeah.
So why go through the extra expense? Because I know wire work doesn't cost as much as computer animation.
I don't know what they paid for this one.
Computer animation is faster off of set.
Oh, I'm
People don't
sure
like
it
being on
is.
set nowadays,
I
which is
guess.
frustrating because that's where the magic happens
Oh,
on
absolutely.
set.
Yep. Yep.
But I mean, you're right. Episode 2 did get better. I mean, you're getting, you know, the best scene I think of episode 1 was the Heat remake scene
Yeah.
between Wilson
Diner.
and Matt. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That was good. It
that
was that's the best way they could have ended it, because otherwise I would have been so mad. I don't think I would have
right.
wanted to watch the second episode.
Yeah,
But yeah, that
I will
wonderful.
say, yeah, I will say too, story wise moved on. I think the pace of episode 2 moved a little bit better than episode 1.
Well, and one thing that you can say about Daredevil is that it has some unconventional villain things happening,
Right.
and
Hmm.
like in this, they're continuing that. Like, this is a spoiler, so if you haven't seen it, people listening, but like Kingpin and Vanessa going to couples therapy on paper is hysterical, and you're like, really? Why would we want to see that? And then in the show, it's like it's tense and
Right.
it's really interesting.
Well, and what I found
The,
interesting, that one moment of where he had to go to the children's choir and just him squirming in that scene, he wants to just explode because how bad it is. And that's
well,
typical Fisk would be, yeah.
the one thing I really liked about the whole Fisk and Vanessa dynamic
Vanessa.
is that has always been the Kingpin's flaw through the other
Right.
seasons. It
Yeah.
has always been the first season he gets her out of there. By the third season, Matt Murdock is making a deal with him with Vanessa as one of the bartering chips.
Right.
And it naturally makes sense that would be a variable in this season of what's going on right now. As a Canadian, from an outside perspective, one thing I am very worried about, and I don't want to get political. I'm not saying I don't consider myself on either side, but putting that all aside, I very much, from an outside perspective, looking at all the media reflections on Fisk getting in, it's a little too close to home on your current presidential heated dynamic. That's all I
Sure.
have to say about that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
get it. It's hard not
No,
to think it.
I
it's
It's
hard.
I
impossible
Yeah.
want
not
to
to think
be
it.
I want to be proven wrong, so I'm not making any conclusions yet. My guard is up. I hope that it veers as its own thing instead of trying to reflect the current presidential dynamic with the states. Because I mean, let's be honest. Kingpin is the mayor of New York. This is going to happen. People are going to be angry about it, and
Right.
I hope that it is its own thing as opposed to trying to an attempt to reflect reality.
Mhm.
I don't want to be preached good thing is good and bad thing is bad, if that makes sense.
Right, and I want to escape.
Um,
I don't want to think about
Right.
this anymore.
yes.
Things
So
are
with
bad
that
enough.
said, I don't see it intentionally per se. I just hope it stays like that. That's what I hope that stays up. I really like in episode 2, where Matt Murdock is representing somebody where Daredevil has to fix half these problems.
Right.
And for me, if somebody that knew nothing about Daredevil, for me, if I heard or if somebody said, how would you describe Daredevil? Well, it's a guy with powers, but he tries to represent the law, and in the times it doesn't work, he goes outside of the law.
Yeah.
And I felt that was a lot. The whole dynamic involving White Tiger, the whole dynamic of finding out that he was White Tiger, the whole dynamic and finding out that fighting in court against the police, their own lawyer, and winning and saying that the court can't say anything about anything to do with White Tiger. All of that I felt was good Matt Murdock, good Daredevil stuff.
Right.
Absolutely.
I really like that. Issue episode number 1. I just love the Matt Murdock, who's out of the game and has been doing well for himself legally. I really liked him just walking up to Wilson Fisk, somebody who's apparently working straight now, and having that conversation.
We gotta talk.
Really,
Yeah.
Yeah.
we need to talk.
That scene was awesome.
Let's get this all off the table, and we both know exactly where each of us stand. They even had a chuckle at each other, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
Like the tension's off. They don't hate. It's like watching two boxers that had a trilogy against each other and hate each other's guts. 30 years later, they can talk and laugh about it. And that's really what I felt there.
Mm-hmm.
There's obviously some tension at the end of the conversation, but that makes total sense that Matt Murdock would say his things, and that would totally make sense for Wilson Fisk to defensively say in rebuttal, well, keep the horns away and you won't have any problems either. And and that was that. I really enjoyed that. I mean, if obviously they're going to cross paths more and more as we go here, but if they never saw each other again in this entire season, I would be content. Like, maybe Fisk is playing it straight. It appears he's not, but for them to have that conversation and part ways, I really appreciated that for what it was. Disappointed that Foggy was just offed right away in the first issue or first episode. And
I just knew it. I knew it was going to happen. I just had a feeling.
It was going too well.
Yeah,
everything's great. We're all happy.
Yeah. This is Daredevil's kind of like Spider-Man. You know, it's not going to last long.
Yep,
that's right. Yeah. That's exactly right. But I hope that Bullseye comes back. I thought that's kind of a waste.
He needs to have that finished. Yeah, from season 3. I mean, what a great setup for a villain, and then
Yeah, and it's funny because in the comics, when Daredevil threw Bullseye off the onto the streets from a couple stories up, he shatters his spine and gets an adamantium one put in. Where in this show they kind of did it backwards, which is understandable with how everything played out. But Daredevil still threw him off the building.
And hey, Harrison Ford just told us adamantium exists, and he wants to have a deal. So
yes. Yeah.
Did you see that? Did you watch Red Hulk movie?
I haven't seen Red Hulk. I have not seen Captain Falcon and Baby Falcon.
Yeah.
But apparently that celestial body is all adamantium. So Wolverine skeleton. Let's make 60,000 Wolverines. We have the adamantium to do it now.
Yep.
Which is a shame. But
that's another one I can go another hour on. Ray,
not a great film. Not a great film.
But the other, I mean, Sam Wilson telling all the troops to stand back and stuff, that just didn't feel right. Like, Steve Rogers would have never done that. But
no.
Anyways, another thing I had big worries going into watching Board again was how the world's bigger now, where the original Daredevil series that took place after the Battle of New York.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of construction and a lot of mafia working in said construction. It definitely worked. But there's more and more and more now of superheroes on the playing field.
Right.
So because of that, my worry was there's going to be a hard balance of the grittiness that they have in contrast with all these fantastical options over the top.
Mm-hmm.
So from what I've seen so far, the balance seems to be good. And like, I guess the best way to put it, when Matt Murdock is discussing with the judge and the opposing lawyer, this has nothing to do with White Tiger, so that shouldn't be a thing right now. And then Matt Murdock saying he wasn't wearing his suit or his mystical amulet.
Yeah.
In the Netflix
casually
show
dropping.
Right.
If he said that, it wouldn't fit. But now it's a bigger scope of a universe. It makes sense. They seem to be doing a good job keeping a balance of mentioning the fantastical all around without having it negatively impact the setting that's already been established leading up to that
There's
point.
a little fantastical stuff more in season 2, but it's there a little bit. But
I would almost say it's more in the mystical with, like, you know, kind of the hand and that kind of stuff.
Once you start doing too much of that, it makes me nervous. Even like having Luke Cage, who I love, and I wish he would come back as Luke Cage, but
there's rumors that the Defenders are in this season.
That would be great. That would be wonderful.
I would be all in.
Yeah.
I wasn't. I
except
thought
for Iron Fist. Please get him out of there.
Well, I think I didn't like the Defenders too much. I thought it fell short, but it had some cool stuff to it. So Luke Cage, last time we saw him, he was running a casino, or not a casino, he was running a club and took over an area. Well, I would love to see something like Wilson Fisk. Like, here's an example of somebody who should be jailed and bring him right into the game.
Right.
Now that he's the mayor, like I could see that happening. I think that would be really neat to introduce Luke Cage accordingly. Oh, he's the criminal? What? Hold on. Wait a minute.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I did find episode 2 to be much more interesting. And then I know you haven't seen it yet, but episode 3 is just the court case.
Right.
And it's great. It's
interesting. Yeah, I look forward to that because it's Matt Murdock, right?
Yeah,
right.
And it works. It's funny though because I have a feeling if we go too much longer without Daredevil, people might, some of those certain types of nerds might get upset. But it is really, really interesting stuff and great stuff. And it's really, really funny because I recently was on a show. It hasn't come out yet, but I guested on another podcast where we discussed the Hulk movie, the Bill Bixby Hulk movie where he meets Daredevil.
Yes, that's a great one.
Yeah. And it's funny how Daredevil has always, it's like Daredevil is so well defined. You could go from that Hulk movie to this show and be like, I get it. I understand completely what's happening here.
You're right.
It's amazing. Also, if people haven't seen that movie, they should. It's fun. It's very fun.
Is that the one just with Daredevil, or is that the one with Hulk, Thor, and Daredevil?
That's the one before. So
okay.
So the Hulk had been off
Thor
the air.
calls Hulk a troll.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hulk had been off the air for a couple of years, I think, and then they come back with this. And these were supposed to be pilots. I think it was a pilot for a Thor show that didn't go.
Right.
And then they did a pilot for a Daredevil show that didn't go. Imagine if they had made that 80s Daredevil TV show. Come on.
Well, in Death of the Incredible Hulk, the last one, where Hulk falls a couple of stories, but the ratings fall way worse than that.
Wow.
The Russian spy, that was supposed to be a reflection of Black Widow, but they didn't use her name for some reason.
Right.
Yeah. I'm glad you know your.
By the way,
Hulk movies.
that reference I used about Death of the Hulk, that was from Wizard Magazine, by the way.
Yes. Much beloved and much missed. Wonderful. I have tons of back issues.
That's great. But yeah, all in all, I am looking forward to seeing the rest at this point. It hasn't made me mad really since the first one. Right. So
yeah, I think they have they're holding back their delivery, their setup is good. I'm waiting for the punchlines. I'm looking forward to seeing where they're going with this.
I'm definitely looking for these big action sequences that we're used to. They're coming, right?
Yes.
And if you've seen any of the trailers, we know Punisher is supposed to be involved, and there's a lot of heavy hinting, even more so in episode 3, regarding something.
Yeah.
Which that's something we're gonna have to talk about. That whole we'll see where they're going, but I can't say anything else. But Punisher seems to be a factor here. I do wonder.
I do have a question. Is there any in episode 2 when Fisk wins the election? Is it anyways, he mentions somebody dressed as a spider. Is there any more references to Spider-Man in episode 3?
I read online there might have been a Miles Morales reference or like his uncle or something.
I just really hope Peter Parker makes an appearance. It's just a personal thing and not everybody has to agree with it, but he's in New York. Everybody's allowed to cross over on this stuff now that Marvel owns all of the rights again.
And if you want it to be classic Marvel, they should. He should cross over.
We got Frank Castle. I'd like to see White Tiger in action alongside with Daredevil.
Right.
That's awesome. I want to see potentially Luke Cage, but even something like Spider-Man fighting something more serious and just crossing paths momentarily and going back and taking out whoever, the Vulture or whoever, and Daredevil back on this low-level fighting bugs thing. Right. They just cross paths for a second just to make it feel more cohesive.
Yeah. Unfortunately, with White Tiger, we'll either have to have recasted or his daughter take over, because unfortunately the actor that played White Tiger passed away right before
I didn't know
the
that
series came out.
Yep.
And in regards to with a crossover with Spider-Man, they are working on the 4th movie right now. I mean, it's in pre-production.
It needs to have Daredevil. If nothing else, that needs to happen. Come on.
We're hearing that there's a couple of castings that could be someone outside of just Pete's little family
Let's
circle.
talk about this. Maybe this will be our
Okay.
wrap-up discussion right here.
Okay.
Okay.
Sadie Sink. I don't know if you remember who she is from Stranger
Things.
Things. The redhead.
Yes, the redhead.
She is cast and going to make an appearance in Spider-Man 4. There's
And it's not confirmed who she is?
It's confirmed that she's going to be in that movie, but who she is the thing.
What are your theories?
I've seen, okay, these are the 4 theories of who she is. 1, Gwen Stacy, which I do not see. I mean, they've already, 1, they're too far along in Peter's story, I think, to have Gwen Stacy in there. And she's been done twice.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is that she's the real MJ. She's the Mary Jane Watson, not Michelle Jones.
Interesting.
Which I just don't see them.
Do we need that? I don't know if I need
and
that.
I don't see them going there and there. Okay, the 2 that are the most interesting, and the last one I'll say is who I think she's gonna be. We all know that mutants are coming to the MCU. The first one is that she is going to be Jean Grey. I just don't see her, the actress,
is she being enough?
That. I mean, she would be old enough. She's early 20s. I think she's like 20, 21, somewhere around there. But my guess, okay, Jean Grey is one of them, but my guess who she's going to be, which is part of Spider-Man lore, is Firestar.
That makes way more sense to me.
Oh, I heard of this. Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends.
Yes.
I heard that, and that makes a lot of sense. We just got to know who Bobby Drake is going to be.
I know. That would be, and I think that would be a way to kind of subtly put mutants.
Yes.
Start into.
There's something subtle about Firestar.
No, I know that. No. But I meant from the normies who don't follow, who really haven't seen. Somebody like Firestar would be a good way to kind of slide.
I think she's the right kind of actor for Firestar.
Right.
Yeah,
I agree. Be really
That's
intense. That's
idea.
something she'd be grappling with. I totally buy her as Firestar for sure.
She's probably going to be 90s Firestar look, like the black jacket and the red spandex, as opposed to the 80s Firestar was all in yellow with the red
gloves and boots. Yeah.
I don't know. I like that.
Either or, I'm indifferent, but that.
I mean, we
won't get the classic look.
I mean, but if we remember at the end of 3, No Way Home, he was in the classic blue and red.
I haven't seen it again. I've only watched it once.
The very last scene when he takes off.
Yeah, the last scene he's in it.
When he swings over what was the battle scene of Hawkeye, you can't tell me that wasn't.
I don't really remember the big battle at the end.
Yeah, because he swings right over the tree in Rockefeller Center.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's and you see Hawkeye a bunch of
and Yelena were, and you see a bunch of people underneath of that.
I vaguely remember this. Yeah. Okay.
I know. I have one of those freak memories.
Thunderbolts. How are we feeling?
I think there is going to be hit or miss. If it's miss, there's repercussions of immediate post Endgame where most movies fell flat, with a few exceptions. With that said, if it is successful, it's going to try some different things as opposed to same old run of the mill. I don't want it to feel like Guardians of the Galaxy or Avengers with punchlines. I want this to be its own thing. I like the idea of Bucky Barnes now developing post-trauma of getting over all of his mind blocks and basically paying penance to all the families of the people that he killed. And now he gets to be his own person. I'm looking forward to that.
Sure.
Ironically, I would love to. If Red Hulk was to show up, that would be the time. Unfortunately, it wasn't.
No.
Sentry is interesting. I think he's going to be a goof, a pass-off character, unfortunately, although he's supposed to be like super OP. The rest, I'm indifferent. The rest of the characters, I'm not too impressed by. It's nothing against them. It's just not something I'm feeling.
Sure. Fair. That's fair.
The two characters I'm most interested in is Bucky, obviously, and apparently he's running for Congress.
That's covered in Red Hulk
Bucky
movie.
is, yeah. Bucky is running. Yeah, so I don't know if in this his campaign fails. Yeah, I'm not sure. And John Walker, actually, I like that character a lot. And hashtag John Walker did nothing wrong.
He killed a guy with a shield. He killed that man.
And he deserved every ounce of it.
I think, though...
Hey, he's the son of Jack Burton.
Yeah, exactly.
Give him a little respect.
That's right, damn it.
I do want to see... I kind of forget that he's there, and I am intrigued to see more of him because I think he's great. I think there's a lot of opportunity with that character to be more interesting. So I hope for that, for sure. I hope for that. I was going to say, there was one scene in the trailer which really makes me curious because it shows him there with, it looks like his son before he goes off to some big mission. So I want to see how that's played. It's kind of that, storyline of a soldier having to go to war and leave their family. So is his son a super soldier? Oh my God.
I mean, you don't know, then obviously.
Super toddler?
But to see that.
This is how you take off a head with a shield.
You're
holding it wrong, son.
Yeah.
Make sure you make a weird noise like, as you do it. It'll come right off, no problem.
But if they use that a little bit with, the character itself, I think those kind of things, even with some of the slapstick and the goofy stuff that we've seen in it, could make that movie better.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely want to see like misfit action heist movie or something along those lines. Like, I don't want to see big Marvel spectacle. I want to see smaller action. I don't want to see
Suicide Squad.
No.
I want to see Guardians of the Galaxy.
No.
Something different.
Yep. I want to see action movie, heist movie, maybe something along those lines with real characters and more realistic stakes.
Right.
Something like the Expendables, maybe.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So here's hoping.
We'll see how that ends because, I mean, you put in, Void as the big bad guy with a bunch of basically, like they say, they shoot and they punch.
Yeah, that makes me sad. Like, I didn't even want that to be in there.
It's like, how the hell are they gonna, I don't want to dance off to snap him out of being Void at the end of it.
Distraction.
So,
fellas, unfortunately, I've got to get going here.
Sure.
I don't mean to cut it short.
No.
This was a great time. We got to do this again. I had
absolutely.
We'll
get you on again.
Thank you for all of your hospitalities, and anybody watching, please check out the Madcaps. I guarantee you'll have a good time.
Yep.
Thanks again, fellas.
Thanks for joining us, and that's the end of the episode. Take it easy, everybody.
So we'll see you guys. We'll have the links on everything in the bottom.
Bye for now.
All right. See ya.
Bye.